Also I had light hair and blue eyes, so they thought I was
light hair and blue eyes, yes. And anyway, they were just all, oh, he's white, you know. And I said, no, he's not. And they thought I'd, you know, been messing around with somebody else. But I had not. And anyway, so, of course, that made his Donovan's father angry. And, of course, that caused trouble. And I had to deal with both those issues. And his family, his mother was real nice to me. His brothers and the others weren't. And anyway, it was just a lot of pressure.
Right.
And anyway, when my mother, I finally agreed to let my mother see him, and I brought him to her house, and she just, you know, fell in love with him and all that. And I said, I don't know, you know, Elliot is his father, you know. And anyway, she fell in love with him anyway then, and after that, you know, she just treated him as, you know, he couldn't, you know, it was the best thing that ever happened to her, you know. He just
after that it was fine,
inseparable.
Right.
And it just his father, though, he couldn't take the pressure of everything very well. He said that my family didn't treat him well, and his family didn't treat me well either. But anyway, we decided to part ways, and we did. And so I raised Donovan, and with the help of my mother, she was right there. But everybody, you know, just you know, when he was with black people, they called him black. The white people called him white, and he'd give them that look he's got, and he'd say, "I'm black and white." Anyway, he was standing up for himself when he was young.
Yeah.
But he's I'm very proud of him, and he's turned into a very nice young man. And if you have him for a friend, he's a friend for life. And he's I couldn't ask for, I'd be more proud of having anybody for a child or a son than him. I love him with all my heart.
Too.
And I'm also proud that he found he's had a lot of things to deal with. He's also gay, and he found a soulmate with Michael, and that made his I was really hopeful for me that he'd find a life partner to love for the rest of his life.
Thank you, Mother, for that ringing endorsement.
Anyway, he brings me joy every day, and I just love him to death and proud of all of his accomplishments. And he's not one to stand back. He'll go full force if he's, you know, going to do something. And I'm just proud of him, and every minute raising him was well worth it.
Okay.
I love him to death.
I love you too, Mom.
Okay.
Thank you for calling in.
Bye-bye.
I love you. Bye.
Bye.
Yes, she is sweet. I love her very much. She's
Is she in the chat room?
No, she's not. I don't know if she's in there or not. If she is, she's not logged in her name. But my mom is a great lady, and I just she's gone through so much more than you can even imagine in her life, despite just the biracial thing, or with my dad, I mean. And she's come out. She's still got a heart, you know. And to come through so much and still have a heart is a big deal. So, thanks, Mom. I appreciate you calling in.
One thing that I wanted to ask, well, I was going to ask her, but I'll ask you. And not that I think it or anything, but I just wonder if anyone has ever said to you that since you were biracial, that's why you're gay.
No one's ever said that to me, and that's ridiculous.
True, but I mean, you know, some people would say, well, if you mix this or that, you come out with this. No wonder you're that way, or just like if you have two women for parents or two men, and it happens that I know that a lot of people want to separate them. They say if they're with a gay set of parents, then the child's going to turn gay.
Right. No, I mean, I don't know. That's not why I'm gay, that's for sure.
Well, I know that. I just wondered if anybody, if they would try to.
No, but I will tell you, I'll tell you guys some stories about what I've experienced being a biracial person. One example is when I was dating when I was 19. I came out when I was 14, so I was dating since I was 14 years old. And so when I was 19, I was dating this guy for about 3 months. I told this story on another show once. And we've been dating for a while, and we were at some club or something on the back patio. We were talking with his friends. He was Caucasian. And we were just chatting, and they said a nigger joke in front of me. They said this really awful black joke in front, like negative black joke in front of me. And I go, "What the fuck?" I say, "Excuse me." And they're like, "He's like, what?" And I'm like, "I'm standing right here." He's like, "Yeah." And it's like, "Well, you're saying that kind of thing in front of me? That's really fucking rude, and I think it's offensive." And he's like, "What does it have to do with you?" And I said, because I'm half black. He's like, "You are?" "Yeah." "I didn't know that," he said. And I was like, "Well, I am." And so we'd been dating for 3 months. We'd been having sex, everything. Obviously, he was attracted to me. And then all of a sudden, he said, "I can't date you anymore because you're half black." And that's just, I couldn't believe how racist it was. This is coming from a gay guy. And I just couldn't believe how much racism there is, because I felt like, did I need to tell him that? Whether he could tell I was half black or not, I didn't think that was the point. If he was attracted to me, if he liked me, we got along, blah, 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 why should it matter? But simply because my father was black instead of white, he didn't want to date me anymore. So that's one example of racism. And then when I was a kid, there were many others. But when I was a kid, I actually was going door to door. When the summers, I'd stay with my grandmother in the summers just because it was fun. And I had this really close friend. Her name was Tanya. And we would go door to door trying to sell these things that you could sell as a kid, like magazine subscriptions, whatever, or candy or whatever. And I was going door to door, and I went to the door of this guy. I was coming up to the door, and hadn't gotten to the door yet. He pulls out his shotgun. He says, "Get the fuck out of my house, nigger!" So it's just really weird to me, my experience being biracial, because depending, like I said earlier, on what part of my life and how I looked at the time, I've experienced racism in different levels and in different ways. And it's really kind of fucks with your mind, because you think of yourself one way and how you're perceived by people, and then later on in life, people start to treat you differently because you look different than you did before. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's
I get it from all angles. As you can tell from my picture, I'm a dark-skinned man, so
I
went through the busting crisis. Huh?
I said, I bet you do, yeah.
Yeah, so I get it automatically. That's why I always assume that all white people are racist until I really see what they're about, because just as you had that privilege of being in that group at the time who they didn't know who you were,
right.
I don't have that option to blend in.
Right.
And then when I see in the gay community, it's just as racist as anywhere else as well.
It's more racist.
Right. So as far as I was concerned, I used to be like a black power guy, black power. But when I ultimately look at the reality, I am living in America. I'm hopefully I can try to survive and make ends meet, but I am a spectator in this society more so than a participant in it, because I am a black man, and it's going to be a different road for me. And that's like when I look at people like Obama, I see that he was raised by his grandparents.
Right.
So he is alien. I do feel an alienation from him in the black experience that I experienced. Mm-hmm. And is he an advocate for what I'm going through on a daily experience? I have to say no.
Right.
But basically, I would say that the experience in being black in America, it depends on, it's the color. Like one drop, you're black, and they treat you that way. Mm-hmm. But if you're lighter, you're more prettier, considered more handsome and more attractive.
Considered that, yeah. It's not true, but that's how people perceive it to be because of slavery and all that crap, because of how we've been taught, yes. And I think it's ridiculous, and it's unfair. And that's the thing. Black people come in all colors and sizes and shapes and forms. I mean, look at Vanessa Williams. Vanessa Williams' parents both are biracial, if you know who she is. And, you know, she has her mother's half white, half black, her father's half white, half black, and that's why she has, like, these blue-green eyes. And yet people consider her to be African-American, which she is, I guess. But, I mean, so black people come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. But what I have a problem with, I guess, is that for me personally, being a biracial person, I don't like it when someone says to me, "Are you black or are you white?" Because I'm not either, I am both. And it seems like such a difficult concept for people to grasp. I am not any more one than I am the other. And so when I'm around certain black people sometimes, they want me to, like, say I'm black and claim that. And if I'm around white people, it's the same way. And so it's very weird for me being between two worlds all the time, trying to make the people understand my experience. And you don't ever really feel like you fit in, one way or the other. You always feel like an outcast.
But when the black people are saying that, are you black, are they saying, are you understanding our experience more so than are you a part of our group? Because there are different types of black.
They are saying that, I think, too. And I think that's part of it as well. I think it's both. I think it's, am I claiming the fact that I'm black on the race side, or am I also the experience? Because that's the other thing. What makes you black or white or Hispanic or whatever race you are, I have said this on other shows before, too, I don't really think it's so much about your genetics. I think it's about the experience, the culture you're raised in. You know what I mean? I think it's more about that because, like, you can't be black if you're not black, obviously, genetically. But I'm saying, like, if a white person is raised in a black, quote-unquote, community, and they're always around black people, that's what they've grown up with, etc., then they may have the same cultural identity as a black person may have. And the same goes in reverse, too. So... Do you agree?
Well, I was going to say, too, that if you, excuse me, I'm interrupting, but I was going to say, if you look at the culture, the overall Hollywood culture, and just how black people are represented, it's a double toll on you as being a black person raised in this culture. That's why I was mentioning, like, spectator, because you do feel as though you're not a part of it and misunderstood within it. So you have, like, a Clarence Thomas who hates himself more so than being proud of who he is and his color.
Right.
So it really teaches you to be hateful towards yourself because you are dark-skinned. And it's even happening now in 2011.
That's the thing about race. It's a very complex thing, and people don't, you can't just say someone is racist or not racist or whatever. I mean, it's such a complex thing, race is. Even if you're white, it's complex, but it's in a different way than someone who's black, obviously, because their experiences are completely different. But I think that people need to realize that someone's experience in life dictates whether they're going to be racist or not. But you said you used to be part of the whole Black Panther movement or felt that way or whatever. What changed that for you? Or did it change at all?
Well, it was like growing up, looking for a job. Every person you go to looking for a job is a white person behind the desk judging you to see if you're qualified and capable. Educational level, financial level. If you look at the blacks overall, statistically, fall far behind the overall white culture because of the gap in wealth, gap in education, gap in employment, and those very people that your guest was talking about who vote against their own best interests or should go to school. They're the ones who vote against their best interests and really socialize the conservatives and the Wall Street bankers and really give them access to a lot of our taxpayers' dollars. Just because they're afraid of some black women in the ghetto riding around in a Lamborghini off their tax dollars.
Oh, I got to tell you, that's a perfect analogy I have for you. This guy was someone I knew a long time ago who had a Mercedes. He was a black man, he had a Mercedes, and he was at a light or something, and the person next to him was driving a Mercedes. But the guy was next to him in a convertible Mercedes, and it was a white guy. And the white guy said, "Well, if you've got that, then what the fuck do I have to strive for now?" Or something like that. Something like if a black guy has a Mercedes, then how can I be better than you anymore? That's basically what the guy was saying. And it's like I'm like, wow. I mean, that's the kind of racism that's out there. It's really scary, and it kind of permeates everything that people think and do, and I don't understand why. Because when I see somebody, and maybe it's because I'm biracial, because I've experienced all this racism as well in a different way than you, obviously, but and seeing both sides of the coin, so to speak, I really don't understand racism. It doesn't make any sense to me, because when you don't like, I understand if people don't like certain races because they're afraid of them, blah blah blah. And like your experience you were having, saying you couldn't find a job or whatever because or it's more difficult for you because you're a black man and you're coming up against all these people who were Caucasian and they were determining your future in a sense. I understand that is difficult, but I don't think that it should make someone not like an entire race because of their experiences with some of them. Because I've had so many bad experiences with black people. I've had bad experiences with white people. My own uncle, my great uncle, my grandmother's brother called me a nigger when I was 13 years old. So I've had some really bad experiences too. And yet I still look at people as people and not as race. And when you see people, both of you, Lady Cougar and yourself, do you guys see people as people